Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and this time we are talking about everything I believe when it comes to Nintendo Switch 2, my predictions. This video, however, will be part 1 of a 2-part series. For the first part, we'll be discussing the hardware, the features, the reveal time, the release date, the pricing, all that good stuff. Now what about part 2? Well, you might be able to figure it out, but I won't be telling you until the end of the video. But before going forward, let me ask that if you do enjoy my content, to please subscribe and hit that notification bell. Now the first thing I want to get out of the way here is that I am predicting that there will be no more major delays. I think we've gotten to a point where we are so close that Nintendo already knows when the console's coming out, how it will be marketed and branded, and the games that they have lined up for it. But I will take this moment to acknowledge a story that's been going around as of late, and it has to do with the recent typhoon that's hit Thailand and Vietnam. It's a very sad situation. Lives were lost, homes were destroyed. My heart goes out to all of those that have been impacted by this. But to be fully frank here, I would not have covered this if I didn't see a lot of comments in my videos about this. I just don't think this is going to be something that's going to majorly impact Nintendo. Yes, they have assembly in Vietnam, but Nintendo is not one to put all their eggs in one basket. They have assemblers in other parts of the world. They would be aware of what's going on, and they would be taking the necessary precautions. So I just think it's very unlikely that this would lead to any major delays. Minor delays are certainly possible, but I don't think we have much to worry about in this department. Now moving on, when it comes to the reveal time, I actually still believe it's going to be happening next week. September 19th feels like the day it's going to happen. Now of course, this is just my belief, I do not know. Maybe the reveal could even be delayed. Even if it's going to be September 19th, perhaps Nintendo will decide to move it up a couple weeks to early October or mid-October. That's certainly possible, but I do think the console is very close to reveal. And I've already made several videos on this subject, so I'm not going to go into all the reasons why I think it's happening, but to put it simply, Nintendo cleared out their September, they moved all their direct presentations to August, and this period of time where they usually have a major direct is completely vacant. So what's going to be there? I think it's going to be the Switch 2 reveal. Now when it comes to this reveal, how exactly is it going to go down? I don't think it's just going to be a single first look trailer, like how it worked with Switch 1, a 3 to 4 minute long trailer. I think we are going to get a trailer like that, but it will be within a bigger presentation. And when I say a bigger presentation, I am not talking about Nintendo going out on a live conference stage having an hour-and-a-half long presentation like they did with Switch 1 back in January of 2017. No, I don't think something like that is going to happen again. I think what's going to happen is that we're going to get a smaller, more brief presentation that will be live streamed, and it'll be 10 to 15 minutes long. One of Nintendo's executives or devs will come out and they'll have some more to say on the next generation of Nintendo. Then they will present the first look trailer. It will be amazing, they will give us a general overview of the console, and we'll also see some games playing on the console just like it worked with that first look trailer for Switch 1. But after this trailer plays, they'll speak a little bit on it, and then they will start to give us more information on other things regarding the console. I think they will give us a proper reveal for the launch title, be it the next Mario Kart or 3D Mario, one of those two. I think we'll have a proper announcement for that game during this presentation. And then maybe they also have like a little sizzle reel that showcases other games as little blurbs of information, so we have a running understanding of what else is coming in the early parts of Switch 2, and that will essentially be the presentation. A minor one that will still leave many questions that we'll learn in the coming months, and eventually Nintendo will have a bigger direct where they fully detail everything we need to know about Switch 2 before launch. It won't be an hour-and-a-half long live conference, it'll be a direct that's maybe like 30 to 40 minutes long that just tells us everything we need to know in a more concise manner. But first, that smaller presentation that maybe also is branded as a direct. A lot of people like to say that Nintendo doesn't showcase hardware in the directs, and this is pretty much true. However, this wouldn't be a normal general direct. We've gotten directs for the museum, for Nintendo movies, for the Nintendo park. Why can't they have a direct for their next generation console? It would be a special direct. What they actually call this presentation doesn't really matter to me, but I do think direct branding has gotten so strong that they might as well just call it the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. Now when it comes to the actual console, what's it going to be? I think it's going to be something that will feel appropriate to call a Switch 2. Will that actually be the name? That I'm unsure of. To me, that's just too hard to predict. I think it makes sense logically to call it a Switch 2 because everyone will just 100% understand what the console is, but historically Nintendo's always gone with something a little bit different, so we shall see. But what I do feel comfortable predicting are some features and aspects of the Switch 2. I do think it will still be a hybrid console, it will still look mostly like a Nintendo Switch, but based off the report we've gone from Vandal and the leaks we've gone from MobaPad, I think the Joy-Cons are no longer going to slide onto the rails like they do with Switch 1, but rather will attach seamlessly and magnetically. And when it comes to the buttons, I am predicting that there will be colored buttons like with Super Famicom. Perhaps they won't be as bright and showy, but they will be apparent. I think this is actually something really smart to do because when you want to show people how to play a game and you have those tutorials, if there's an actual color associated to the button, it's easier to identify. And also help the console stand out and set itself apart from the Switch 1 family. We've also heard that there will be an 8-inch screen, which is bigger than the 7-inch screen on the Switch OLED, and this time it will be 1080p. However, apparently it will only be LCD and not OLED. Some people may be disappointed about this, but I will note that LCD technology has improved, and I imagine that the difference won't be so significant that it will still seem pretty high quality, and with it being a higher resolution and bigger, many people will be pleased. We've also heard that there will be backwards compatibility, which I think is extremely likely simply considering the history of Nintendo and how they like to follow up successful consoles with a console that is backwards compatible. Notice how Nintendo's still coming out with games right now for their holidays. They're going to want people to play these games afterwards, not just during these holidays, but during the heyday of the Switch 2. So backwards compatibility I think is really important. I also expect that cartridges will still be there. You'll be able to take your Switch 1 cartridges and put them into your Switch 2, or Switch 2 cartridges. There will be exclusive Switch 2 cartridges as well. Maybe there will be some sort of indentation or divot that will not allow you to fit it into your Switch 1, but cartridges will still be a thing. And I also think because Nintendo is advanced with their account system, that not only will we have backwards compatibility physically, but also digitally. Imagine if you were to buy a second Switch. You being able to transfer over your account, all of your saves, your digital downloads, everything. I think it'll work the same for Switch 2. The only difference is that Switch 2 will be more powerful, with more features, and exclusive Switch 2 games. Now when it comes to the controller, I'm expecting more button functionality. You'll still be able to pair your basic Joy-Cons and your basic Switch Pro controller, but there will also be new controllers that have more options. Now what those options are exactly, that I don't feel fully comfortable with predicting right now, but I will tell you some ideas. Perhaps analog triggers, improved haptics, better HDR rumble, and maybe even scroll wheel shoulder buttons. We've discussed this in the past, there are patents, Sakurai has suggested it before, and essentially how it would work, take your L and R buttons on a controller, and imagine you were to have a scroll wheel button like it is on your mouse, but there in place of the L and R button, and you can scroll left and right to move around. You can still press it like a button, but it gives you more options in terms of menu navigation, camera control, and whatever else devs decide to put in there. I think this would actually be a significant improvement for console controllers, and it could become a mainstay. But it's just a wish of mine, because they've actually considered this technology several times and have yet to ever actually do it. So I'm not sure they'll do it this time, but I hope so. Now, some other features that I wish for that I think make sense, but I'm not totally committed to predicting quite yet, is the return of Street Pass and an improved adapted version of Miiverse. So with Street Pass, if you're unfamiliar, it's this service on Nintendo 3DS where you can put your 3DS into sleep mode, walk around with it in your purse, backpack, or pocket, and when you pass by someone else, there is an exchange of game information. And when you turn on your 3DS, depending on the game, this could lead to different benefits, features, and whatnot. It was essentially a form of passive multiplayer. I hope they bring this back. But the other thing I mentioned was Miiverse. It was this service that was essentially kind of like Twitter, but just for the Wii U, where you could draw pictures, share it with people, and even a lot of developers shared their own messages to fans on the Wii U. It was a pretty cool service that did not last very long, and I think it was a little bit ahead of its time. I think now, especially now that Twitter functionality has diminished on Switch, It would be really great to introduce their own social media platform here, and maybe they make it its own app that you can even have on your phone where you can check for social media updates. And it's actually fleshed out more so where this app can do different things. There's already a Nintendo Switch app that works with some games where there's some stats and features or even little accessories you can purchase for some games like for Splatoon, but it's something that most of us don't really use. But if there was something like Miiverse where you could access it on your console, but also through the app on your phone, I think that would work really well. And since we're speaking on the app, something that the initial Switch app had that I did not like was voice chat. I am predicting that that will not be a thing on Switch 2. You will not have to use voice chat through your phone and an app to get it done. You will just be able to do it natively through the console as you can on PlayStation and Xbox. I think this time around Nintendo is going to have a console that's closer in parity to their competition, so there will be a lot more AAA multi-platform games. They're going to try to appeal to this audience a little bit more, and so the need of having a better overall online system with proper voice chat will make a lot of sense. So I think it will be there, but I understand Nintendo hasn't done this for years, so many people probably don't want to believe it. Call me an optimist. I think it's finally happening this time. But let's now move on to power. I'm not going to go over hard numbers here, but I will say from the Gamescom leaks, there was a Breath of the Wild tech demo that ran the game at 4K 60 with next to no load times, and then there was the Unreal Engine 5 Matrix tech demo that had apparently improved ray tracing effects. I think these tech demos give us a rough idea of what we can expect here. My belief is that when undocked in portable mode, when they have to conserve power due to battery life, we'll be looking at something that's comparable to a PlayStation 4. But when in docked mode, I think we're going to see a more significant leap. We've seen some evidence that there might be perhaps an additional cooling fan inside the dock, and also a higher watt charger, maybe so they can raise up the clock speeds more so, and maintain a comfortable temperature. I think we'll be seeing power that's comparable to somewhere between a PS4 Pro and an Xbox Series S. There's some wiggle room there, and really what I like to think about is not raw numbers, but overall visual impact. Because maybe it's not quite as powerful as a Series S, but when we actually see the games and we see how they look and run, we're going to feel pretty good about it. It's going to be comparable, and I think it's going to be something that's good enough to measure up to the current platforms to the point where AAA third-party support, for the most part, is going to be there. And there will be DLSS features, this technology made by NVIDIA, deep learning super sampling, that will offer upscaled resolutions, better ray tracing effects. These things will make for a big difference. And I think especially when it comes to Nintendo-made games, their biggest, best titles, they're going to look really impressive. Why? Because Nintendo is just really good at punching above their weight when it comes to making their games on weak hardware. So I think us Nintendo fans are going to be overall pretty pleased with what this console can do. Now something else I'm expecting is fast loading, as hinted at by the Breath of the Wild tech demo. I'm not sure it's going to be as fast as a PS5 or a Series X, but it's going to be pretty good. It's going to be a substantial improvement over Switch, and I think that's something we're going to appreciate. Now, in terms of wishes, when it comes to specs here, I hope, that the battery life will be better than the Switch OLED. But in terms of my expectations, I think it will likely be on par. Moving on to pricing though. I think the price of this console, at least one SKU, will be $399.99, $400 USD. Why? Because if you account for inflation, this is around what the price of the base Switch was, and I think if we go up to $450 or $500, that's not going to please the masses. Now I think that pricing may very well happen, but with a second SKU. Perhaps the $400 model just has 256 gigabytes of internal storage, and a $500 model has a terabyte. I could see something like that happening. Now with that all said, we've pretty much reached the end for this part 1 of my Switch 2 predictions. Part 2 is all about the games. But as a bit of a bridge concept to end things off here, I'll mention that I believe there will be enhanced backwards compatibility. So in other words, you'll be able to take your Switch 1 games, put them into your Switch 2, and in some cases, they will look and run better. I think they will likely need to be patched. I think this will be a case-by-case basis. You might even have to pay for it, I am unsure. But I do think we're going to see a variety of Switch 1 games with Switch 2 enhanced versions. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.